Welcome, everybody. This is News4us World Special Report. We are coming to you live with your weekly news segment. We are going to be covering some vital issues today of importance and dispel some rumors and myths that have been floating around that some people have been perpetrating about what's going on with those in power right now. So, with that being said, we're going to start off with some coverage by Dr. Phil on the ground with ICE from a couple of weeks back in Chicago to give people an idea of what's going on and what's actually happening versus what the rumors and the misinformation that's being spread out there is. So, with that being said, let me play our disclaimer and then we will get right into the show.
The views expressed on this show are expressly the views of the speaker and do not necessarily reflect the views, beliefs, or opinions of News4us.world, its hosts, broadcasters, or affiliates. Remember, folks, always use your own discernment when viewing. We encourage our viewers to think for themselves.
All right, so we're going to be playing this episode of the Dr. Phil Show aired a few weeks back. 11 days ago, actually, is when it aired. This is ICE in the Windy City with a Dr. Phil exclusive, and here we go.
$270 people are gone from these communities. How much safer these communities are if those people are gone.
We're focused on criminals, public safety threats, national security threat first. And those just make sense. They're the biggest dangers of the communities. We'll deal with them first.
Hey, Dr. Phil here, and you're listening to the Dr. Phil Podcast. Tom Homan, the former ICE director and now President Trump's border czar, is all about transparency and the letter of the law. When they decided to undertake the first large multi-agency operation to identify, target, and arrest dangerous illegal aliens in Chicago, he agreed to allow Merit TV what was going on. Specifically, how targets were identified, prioritized, approached, and taken into custody. Well, without hesitation, I got on a plane and flew to Chicago. What I witnessed was eye-opening. Here's what happened. Well, we've just arrived in Chicago, and I'm getting ready to meet with Tom Homan, and we're going to brief what's happening tomorrow, what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, go over all the security protocol, because it's a pretty high-risk mission that we're going on. This truly is a targeted ICE mission, because they're not sweeping neighborhoods like people are trying to imply. I know that because I've been involved in this heading into this. They've identified 270 high-value targets. And what I mean by that is these are known criminals and terrorists. We're talking about murderers, child traffickers, child rapists. We're talking about bad actors, both in the countries they've come from and since they've been here in the United States. Some of these people have 12, 15 arrests, indictments, some convictions in their home countries and here, but yet they're on the streets. And that's who ICE is targeting to bring out of these communities. So we're going after specific targets, not just sweeping neighborhoods. One thing I've learned about Tom Homan since I've come to know him, he is very pro-immigration. He's got some programs that he's working on that are going to be unveiled soon. That are going to really indicate that. But he's got three objectives. One, close the border, get it under control. Two, get the criminals, the dangerous people out of the communities and off the street. And three, rescue these missing children. There are over 300,000 missing children. Some of them may be with family. That's fine. Let's identify that. Some of them have been trafficked into sweatshops, prostitution, really bad outcomes for these children. So those are the three objectives. And this one that we're working on starting in just a few hours is to get these bad actors off the street, these known violent criminals out of the community. How could anybody disagree with that? Well, I'm with Tom Holman in an undisclosed location. I'm not going to talk about that right now. But I can say we're in Chicago because this isn't nobody's going to see this until after we're already doing what we're doing. So we're embargoing this. But tell everybody what we're here planning and what's going to happen tomorrow.
We're here to do an ICE operation. As promised by the president and myself, we're going to concentrate on public safety threats. Chicago is a sanctuary city. So every public safety threat who's a foreign national who gets arrested in this area will get released back into the community to reoffend. So we're here to start this operation tomorrow. We got hundreds of targets we're looking for. We're going to make this city safer starting tomorrow.
Okay, now, you and I have talked many times, and you're all about three things that I understand. One is closing the border and making sure that people that come into this country come in through a port of entry, and we know who those people are. And they're qualified to come into this country for the right reason, the right people for the right reasons. Number two, taking the dangerous people that already have gotten into this country that should have never gotten into this country are taken off the streets. We're talking about murderers, violent people, rapists, child molesters, sex offenders, traffickers, drug dealers, arms dealers, terrorists. Those are the kind of people that we're talking about, right?
Absolutely. And starting right after inauguration, we've already arrested over 1,000 criminals, illegal aliens in this country. We're going to start with Chicago tomorrow.
All right. And those that you've arrested is just in the normal operations of ICE doing what they do. And then the third prong is finding and rescuing the children that have just been lost in the system. And there's 300,000 plus children. We're not saying all of those have been trafficked, not all of those. Some of them are with family, maybe. We hope many of them, but we know a lot of them aren't. That's the third prong. But tomorrow, the focus is on targeting these violent criminals that are victimizing some of their countrymen that are here. They maybe start with them, but then they're committing crimes in America. They're dealing drugs. They're committing murders. They're doing the things that we don't want done in this country. And you have been studying those people. You've built a file, you've got data, you know where they're likely to be. And that's who's being targeted.
Absolutely. You're going to see tomorrow the brave men and women of law enforcement put their lives on the line to arrest somebody on their turf. They shouldn't have to, right? If we could arrest them in the safety and security of the county jail, it's safe for the officer, it's safe for the alien, and it's safe for the community. Because of sanctuary city policies, our officers have to go knock on their door, go on their turf. We have access to who knows what weapons. It just makes our job a lot more dangerous, what you'll see tomorrow. And then one thing I want to point out, what you also want to see tomorrow, you're going to see non-criminals being arrested because they have forces in the community to find a bad guy. And when we find a bad guy, he may be with others. Unlike the Biden administration, we're going to let ICE officers enforce immigration law. That's their job. That's the ultimate thing. So if they're in the country legally, they're coming too. So the sanctuary city is going to get exactly what they don't want. More officers in the community and more collateral arrests because they forced us in this position.
Okay, now let's talk about this because I've looked at some of the files, some of the data that you shared because you guys have been gracious enough to allow Merit TV to embed with ICE and these brave men and women to go on this operation. And so we've seen some of the people that you're targeting and going after. Some of these people have been arrested time and time again and deported time and time again. But when they get back into the country and they get arrested again and they're in custody, nobody's raising their hand in a sanctuary city and notifying ICE, hey, this is a violent criminal that has been deported sometimes 6, 7 times. They're back here again. We've arrested them again. We know they're a violent criminal. Nobody's alerting you to that, where you could come into the jail in a controlled environment without any danger to anyone in the community and take that person and into custody and deport them, why are they not raising their hand and saying, come get this person in a controlled environment?
Politics. It's nothing but politics. That's nothing to do with public safety. We're not asking them to be immigration officers. We're asking them to be cops that work with our cops. Local cops working with the feds. Do what you do with them. We lock them in the jail, so that's fine. When you're done with them, all we're asking is contact us when we release them. We'll take custody of them and let us do our job. It'll make the community a lot safer. Anybody can look at recidivism rates. A lot of them are going to commit another crime in the neighborhoods against a U.S. citizen or against a migrant community. It's not safe. And I would dare this mayor to go to the immigrant community and ask them one simple question. Ask the immigrant community, would you rather have ICE operating in our jail or in your community? They're going to say the community, because even though they're in the country illegally, they don't want predators in their neighborhood either. They don't want someone convicted of 10 DUIs driving around their neighborhood either. Most of these people are good family people. They want their neighborhoods protected too. So the mayor ought to be protecting not only immigrant communities, but American communities. His number one job is protection of his communities, to drive crime down, to take public safety threats off the street. But he's not doing it for political reasons only.
Okay, so you saw that, folks. That was just a short 10-minute segment on from Dr. Phil's show, or the Dr. Phil podcast, where he did an episode and he covered it on the ground with ICE. The links are in the description. You can go and check it out and watch the whole thing. So with that being said, let's discuss it for a bit, yeah, and kind of give some back and forth for our audience before we get into the next section or segment of our show.
All right, Stephen, I'd like to jump in here. My sources inside the police department in Colorado have made it clear that Colorado, at least in the Denver and Aurora metro areas, are not cooperating with ICE. That ICE is not notified when they have violent, dangerous perpetrators of criminal acts that are immigrants. They're not notifying ICE. They're not releasing them into ICE custody. And these and the laws, I don't know who cooked up these sanctuary city laws, but it seems insane to me, because you've got violent offenders, people who are serious criminals doing terrible things, looking them in, and then the courts release them because of the policies that are in place from the last administration. These policies are, that obviously the new administration in the federal government is trying to change this, but the reality is that these violent criminals, these dangerous criminals, are simply released. They're not processed into our system and treated like the criminals that they are. They are released onto the street and allowed to go back to their life of crime. There's no accountability, and it's a very mysterious thing, because what government wants criminals out on the streets? That just doesn't make any sense unless there are financial incentives of some kind. And I believe that to be the case. I believe that what's happening is these sanctuary cities were arranged in a way that they receive monies for immigrants that are not documented, that are in the state. And I think that's what we saw in New York City. Just the other day, there was a large amount of money that was paid to a New York hotel, and the New York hotel was owned by Pakistanis. So that money is going to Pakistanis, and it was millions of dollars. And the government, the new administration, called them on it and said, no, we're not going to have this. You're going to return that money. And they were forced to return that money. And so what's happening, I guess, is that these so-called sanctuary cities are still on some kind of a take, or on some kind of a dole, or on some kind of a payroll that rewards them for allowing criminals to roam free in our society. And living in the area where this is the reality, it's frightening. We see car accidents, we see people that don't know how to drive because they don't they're not licensed through the DMV. As a matter of fact, many of the cars don't have license plates at all. And there's terrible accidents that happen. People don't know the laws. They don't know how to drive. They don't know how to operate the vehicles. And that's just the accidental or incidental crimes. That doesn't count. The rapes and murders, the things that are the drugs that flood into the community. And there's been no accountability. And I'm really grateful as a person that lives in an area where there is uh, danger from these illegal immigrant gangs like Tren de Aragua that that are that have no compunction about doing the most horrible crimes. Um, it's a terrible thing to think that our government just simply allows these people to re-enter society with no controls whatsoever, and that they're actively resisting. I mean, the inside contacts that I have in the police force are letting me know that the police are furious about it. They want to get these criminals off the street. They do get these criminals off the street, and then the judges release them. And then they book them again. Some of these criminals have been booked 10 or 12 times in just a few weeks because they keep doing, but then they keep getting released. So this is the reality of what's going on in Colorado and so-called sanctuary cities and communities across the country where some perversity has taken control of the governmental systems that should be protecting the citizens of America and instead is putting them in harm's way for whatever their motive. I suspect it's a profit motive where you've got politicians and people in power that are empowered to make a lot of money by selling out the populations of these areas. And it's a bizarre thing to see that there are these excuse me, rampant protests across the nation against what is happening. And I think it's that people are not well informed and that they're misunderstanding what really is going on. Um, it's made very clear by following the what Dr. Phil is saying and his team that's embedded with Tom Homan as they go in and clean up this mess, that they're not going they're not going to schools and taking children out. They're looking into specific individuals with criminal histories and the places where they are most likely to find them, and they're going into those neighborhoods and pulling those individuals out. Now, sometimes they wind up capturing other illegal aliens, that is, people that have entered the country without papers and have no right to be here because of because of that fact. And I know a lot of legal immigrants that are all for the process of legal immigration, and I myself am a strong supporter of legal immigration. I know people. I have a lot of multicultural friends, and and I I love and admire people from all over the world. I think we have a wonderful world and a diverse population, but I think that we have been invaded by a criminal element that is not being properly dealt with. And I, for one, am grateful to see that we are doing some things to deal with this problem that are real. It's a real hard problem. It's a very hard reality. And we're facing into that reality and taking care of the problem. And I, for one, am very grateful to see that happening.
You're right, and I'm grateful for it as well. Like after having so many presidents, have been elected in my lifetime, all to make promises and then have none kept for the most part. This is one administration I can honestly say I feel like they're doing what they said they were going to do. Despite all the hoopla and the fear mongering on the left that concentration camps, they're shilling our tax dollars, which is fucking ridiculous, by the way. So about the U.S. aid thing, which is the next segment coming up. That's interesting. As far as the rumors about the immigration, there are not sweeps, there are not raids. They're only going after hardened criminals that have broken the law. And then of course, if they happen to catch somebody that's in the proximity that's also an illegal alien, and they're gonna do their job, which is what we want them to do. They should be doing their job, and so that's good to see. So my thoughts on that. I know a lot of people in that are legal migrants. A neighbor that I helped his son and his wife become citizens. I did the legal paperwork for them, and I can tell you that he is infuriated and insulted by the fact that they were letting so many people in undocumented. It's just slap in the face to people that did it the right way. And so, that's my 2 cents on it. And I think we're headed back towards a more stable country now that we've got some people in power that are actually doing what they said they're going to do, doing their jobs.
Absolutely. And grateful to see it, honestly.
I got to go and go get dinner out of the oven here in a minute. I'm going to play just like another 5 minutes of this Dr. Phil thing, and then we'll segue into the USA when I get back, just to keep for time.
Money lessons can be hard earned, especially when it comes. You've got a file on this person. You've got an electronic footprint. You have information as to where this person is residing, where they're conducting their illegal activities, who they're in contact with. They've been surveilled. There's been a whole investigation for these people. You're not just going in and saying, yeah, this looks like a building where they might hang out. You have an investigation that has, in the last 90 days, for example, you've had contacts with these people, surveilled these people, so this is their residence, this is where they hang, this is where they do their business, this is wherever. That's where you're going to look for these people, right? There's something to this.
Many, many hours of investigation are put into every target that we go after. You'll see tomorrow at the rally point where a supervisor will go over the target list. They'll go over the files. We have fingerprints, photographs, criminal history. A lot of work's been done. The men and women of ICE, ERO, HSI, they're professionals. They're good at this. And you'll see tomorrow just how good they are.
And this is no different than if the FBI, for example, was looking for a U.S. citizen that was committing these crimes of murder, rape, child molestation, child trafficking, kidnapping, whatever. You're doing exactly the same police work that they would be doing to go in and take this person off the street, out of the community, and incarcerate them. Just your incarceration is to get them out of the United States, off of our streets, and back to their original country.
Actually, our work is more dangerous and harder because no one's locking the FBI out of the jail. No one's locking DEA out of the jail. No one's locking Secret Service out of the jail. They're only locking ICE out of the jail. So our job is more dangerous and more difficult because an FBI agent can go arrest somebody in the county jail. A DEA agent can arrest somebody in the county jail. We got to send a whole team into the neighborhood to arrest a bad guy in his turf who has access to who knows what weapons. Dangerous for the community, dangerous for the officers, dangerous for the aliens. Our job is actually much harder.
So by not allowing you access, not raising their hand when they do have this person detained, if they do, they're protecting them, but they're putting the ICE agents' lives in danger by forcing them into the community, into this apartment project, into this building where they might be doing business, where they could have access to firearms that they wouldn't have access to in jail. They would have access to some Confederates who might help them resist, which they wouldn't have access to in jail. They can flee. A car chase could ensue, which couldn't happen if they were in jail. All of that is putting the men and women, agents, at risk, putting their lives at risk. None of that would happen if they just raised their hand when they had them detained.
Absolutely right. And I will not sleep tonight. I never do before these things. And I won't take a breath till I know every agent goes home to their families the next night. I won't sleep because I don't want anybody to be hurt, including the alien target we're looking for. So this is dangerous.
Well, I know you And I know that you couldn't be more sincere about that. And I know when you put this operation together and they start building these different teams, awful lot of these men and women agents raised their hand and volunteered to do this. And I know they want to make the community safer. And that's the focus here. This is the
Okay. All right. So you got another 5 minutes of that, folks. Feel free to check it out on your own time whenever you have a chance. The links in the description. Let's get into the Dodge discovery with the fraud in the USA and USAID, which stands for United States Agency for International Development. It's not a aid for the United States, an aid program where they give help. So it's not what most people think. Much like the Federal Reserve, it has nothing to do with the federal government. In much the same way they use a little bit of sleight of hand with the abbreviations to trick people and let them think what they want. So let's play this right here, and we can see what's going on with this. We're going to get into a couple articles as well.
And here's the reason why Elon Musk and others have been taking a look. Because if you look at the waste and abuse that has run through USAID over the past several years, these are some of the insane priorities that organization has been spending money on. $1.5 million to advance DEI in Serbia's workplaces, $70,000 for a production of a DEI musical in Ireland, $47,000 for a transgender opera in Colombia, $32,000 for a transgender comic book in Peru. I don't know about you, but as an American taxpayer, I don't want my dollars going towards this crap, and I know the American people don't either, and that's exactly what Elon Musk has been tasked by President Trump to do, to get the fraud, waste, and abuse out of our federal government. Thank you, guys. And here's the reason why Elon Musk and others have been taking a look. Because if you look at the waste and abuse that has run through USAID over the past several years, these are some of the insane priorities that organization has been spending money.
Good Lord, look at this list. $6 million to fund tourism in Egypt, hundreds of thousands of dollars for a nonprofit linked to designated terrorist organizations, even after an inspector general launched an investigation.
I just realized I was muted the whole time I was reading that.
Ah.
I was wondering why you were talking, dude. Hold on. I apologize, folks. My bad. I forgot to unmute myself. So I got this. At USAID, waste and abuse runs deep. February 3rd, 2025. For decades, the United States Agency for International Development, USAID, has been unaccountable to taxpayers as it funnels massive sums of money to the ridiculous and, in many cases, malicious pet projects of entrenched bureaucrats with next to no oversight. Here are only a few examples of the waste and abuse. $1.5 billion to advance diversity, equity, and inclusion in Serbia's workplaces and business communities. $70,000 for production of a DEI musical in Ireland. $2.5 million for electric vehicles for Vietnam. $47,000 for a transgender opera in Colombia. $32,000 for a transgender comic book in Peru. $2 million for a sex changes and LGBT activism in Guatemala. $6 million to fund tourism in Egypt. Hundreds of thousands of dollars for nonprofit links to designated terrorist organizations, even after an inspector general launched an investigation. Millions to EcoHealth Alliance, which was involved in research at the Wuhan lab. Many of us were blowing the whistle on that at the very beginning, only to be called conspiracy theorists and anti-vaxxers, mind you, which anti-vaxxer is a freaking blanket statement. I was against that particular shot. So, YouTube, do not freaking red flag my ass. Or I'm not going to use you no more. Sorry, I wanted to put that out there. We were right. Equal Health Alliance, and we still are. We called that a long time ago. Hundreds of thousands of meals that went to Al Qaeda affiliated fighters in Syria, funding to print personalized contraceptives, birth control devices in developing countries. Hundreds of millions of dollars to fund irrigation canals, farming equipment, and even fertilizer used to support the unprecedented poppy cultivation and heroin production in Afghanistan, benefiting the Taliban. The list literally goes on, and it has all been happening for decades. Under President Trump, the waste, fraud, and abuse ends now. Then we have a USAID map that shows countries where it spends the money the most, published February 3rd, 2025. Map shows which countries received the most funding, or the most support assistance from the U.S. agency. Go away. Sorry about that, folks. Stupid pop-ups want to make me freaking sign up for their newsletter in order to read the article. I got it. Foreign assistance from the U.S. Agency for International Development. USAID disbursed $72 billion in the fiscal year 2023, the most recent full year for which information is available. Most aid, more than $16 billion, was sent to Ukraine that year. President Donald Trump's advisor, Elon Musk, said early Monday that Trump had agreed USAID should be shut down. The map below, using USAID data released by a U.S. Office of Foreign Assistance, shows the countries where USAID spent most money in 2023. Ukraine has been removed in order to better show relative spend in each country. I think it would better show relative spend if they included Ukraine. Then we know how much more they spend on Ukraine versus everywhere else. I mean,
I'd like to know it's 16 billion was sent to Ukraine.
Content.
It sure would be interesting to see how that compares.
Yeah, definitely interesting to see how it compares. Why it matters. I mean, it's just more freaking shuffling of the information in the facts. Trying to make something sound less bad than it actually is. When you see media doing stuff like that, folks, like where they do stuff like this last sentence, oh, Ukraine has been removed in order to better show relative spend in these countries for our viewers, because we care so much about telling the truth to our viewers, right? Come on, Newsweek, give me a break.
Well, I guess they didn't have
right there. That's a little just small stuff like that you don't really think about, but they try to subliminally suggest that it's for your best interest and not to try to help you help. When we all know that's not the case.
If you look at this, okay, now you have the disbursement 2023, the total numbers add up to 1,197,604,198. Well, I guess 16 billion going to Ukraine means that would skew the figures some, wouldn't it? Because that puts it over 17 billion, 197,604,198 dollars. So how has the U.S. been benefited by all this money going to Ukraine and all these other countries? That really is the question on my mind, and probably on the minds of most Americans.
Yeah, Definitely, definitely. I mean, I didn't agree for our government to send billions of our tax dollars to fucking Ukraine when I know for a fact that Lindsey Graham and freaking John McCain were back there in 2014, who backed those freaking rebels, who, mind you, are the ones that are in power now with Zelensky. And how is that working out for us?
And also, I think you have to factor in the fact that news stories came out some months ago that indicated that there were, in fact, gain of function research labs in Ukraine. And of course, we all know gain of function research is where you take a disease of some kind, usually an animal disease, and then you gain a function, you add a function to that by genetic manipulation to make it more lethal, to make it lethal to humans, to make it able to cross the species barrier that otherwise would protect humans from that disease, such as was the case. Now we know, now the evidence has been released. Now you're not removed from social media for telling the truth about what was going on in Wuhan, that in fact that was a gain of function research lab, and they were in fact performing gain of function research, and the US was funding it. There was funding coming out of our tax dollars to create a disease that then obliterated much of the population, and for which they created, for which they had already created what was called a vaccine. And we all know now how that's turning out. At least those of us that do the research. I mean, there are some people that still haven't been told the truth, that still are believing the lies that were told so profligate and wide and deep that it is hard to escape unless you've got an accurate source of information. And there really aren't accurate sources of information. This is what we're doing here, is trying to bring accurate information, because so many of the information sources were bought off by the same people that sponsored all of these activities.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. And we're gonna read one more article from an opposing viewpoint. That's not for the exposure of the USAID. It's obviously a left-leaning news organization here, but I think we got to be balanced as much as possible so people have access to all the information. You make up your own mind, folks. We're just presenting the information. I don't agree with this particular article. I think it's bullshit and totally skewed. Just my opinion, but we got to be fair. So, Congressional Office says Trump has no authority to dismantle USAID. The same day the report was released, billionaire Elon Musk said that he was working to shut down the agency with U.S. President Donald Trump's blessing. U.S. President Donald Trump does not have the authority to abolish the U.S. Agency for International Development, according to a Congressional Research Service report published Monday, which noted that congressional authorization is needed to, quote, abolish, move, or consolidate the Humanitarian Assistance Agency. The report was released the same day that billionaire Elon Musk who has been tapped by Trump to help lead his administration's efforts to cut spending and bureaucracy through the so-called Department of Government Efficiency, said he was seeking to shut down the agency, which is known as USAID. Musk, who said he had received Trump's blessing to do so, made the remarks during a live discussion on X. Also, Monday, the State Department announced that Secretary of State Marco Rubio had taken over as acting director of the agency. Secretary Rubio has also now notified Congress that a review of USAID's foreign assistance activities is underway with an eye towards potential reorganization. According to statement from the State Department, the Trump administration implemented a 90-day freeze on nearly all foreign aid during its first week, and days later placed dozens of senior USAID staffers on leave. Two top security officials at USAID were removed by the administration over the weekend after they refused representatives with DOJ access to restricted spaces of the agency. According to the congressional report, the White House can make structural changes I guess there was a typo there. Two makes structural changes to USAID and to the State Department, such as shifting functions from one agency to the other. However, the administration is supposed to notify and consult, quote, appropriate congressional committees prior to making changes. In the past, administrations have implemented such changes only after this notification. You know, it's funny how they like to point out it has to be done through congressional. It has to be done through Congress. Well, let me ask you, everybody. So, if they're making such a big deal, when was the last time we declared war through Congress, and how many wars have we been in since then? Let me ask you that. So that's my counter argument. And if they're worried about freaking fraud being discovered and because of a fucking audit, I'm sorry. Like, I gotta call this out. So my little brother, right? He gets all his news from Reddit. No wonder he's so fucking confused. He was texting my mom the other day, like, "Oh, it's right out of the Nazi playbook. Oh, they're going to put people in concentration camp. They're stealing their tax dollars. They're stealing their security money. Oh my god, oh my god!" Freaking out and shit. I'm like, oh my fucking lord, dude. I feel so bad for him, dude. I'm like, all it takes is a couple seconds of actual research. Don't just take any one source. Look it up. Look for yourself. Dude, don't believe all the hype, all the bullshit. All you got to do is go to C-SPAN and look for yourself, and you can see a lot of these clips that are claiming about very fine people and other things that they cut out of context. You'll see the full length, and you'll see the actual context, which they won't show you. But C-SPAN, my friends, is a friend. cspan.org. Open source, public domain. You can see the full versions of any video, political coverage, whatever. Go there for your fact checks if you want to verify or just debunk some of this info. That'll be your smoking gun, folks. Tools to empower yourself. Anyways, I had to put that out there because I'm just sitting here. I was sitting there just laughing. That's the shit he was. I'm like, oh god, I got more damage control to do.
It would be funny if it were not. So it is funny, but it's also
it's
so
been sad
serious.
Too.
It's so serious. Our government is spending money so quickly that we are literally bankrupting the United States. If we don't get this under control, then the United States is a dead country. We've wasted everything. We've destroyed our economy. And the only way that we're going to get it under control is by developing efficiency in government operations. And the Department of Government Efficiency is a brilliant concept that is far, far late, hopefully not too late, but it's absolutely necessary. We don't just have to cut spending. We've got to absolutely burn down all of the corruption that is taking money that should be going towards the actual functions of government, towards actually serving the American people, and has been just money laundered so that politicians can leave office with hundreds of millions of dollars on a $16,000 a year salary or whatever it is. I think it's about 160,000, but when you have politicians that come out multi-millionaires or billionaires because of the intelligent investments that they make, and because, how do they do that? How do they do that? Well, once you begin to see that there are billions and billions and billions of dollars that vanish mysteriously into the federal government, that are wasted by the federal government, that go towards bogus programs and shell games where money is hidden in one place and moved to another, and then hidden in another place and moved to another, until it comes out freshly laundered at the other end. And so the people that make those arrangements, which is all of our government officials, manage to enrich themselves, enrich their families, and the rest of us are paying for it. And I just don't see the problem with creating efficiency in our government. And I think that it's crazy to me that people don't want to cooperate in creating efficiency in our government. But it also makes sense because you've got media that is owned and controlled by a propaganda arm of the corporatocracy that runs America. And when I say a corporatocracy runs America, I'm talking about the fact that no one's elected to Congress without big money from huge multinational corporations. We're not talking American. We're not talking American corporations. We're talking about corporations that are so big and that they have no national allegiance whatsoever. Their allegiance is to money and power. And and that's the facts of the matter. And so I'm really grateful to see that we have a Department of Government Efficiency that is working towards reining in the profligate and absolutely Wild West kind of spending that our politicians have been guilty of. These are crimes against the American people. They're supposed to be defending our interests. They're supposed to be defending our Constitution. And instead, they are just rampantly exploiting the fact that they're in a position of power to enrich themselves and to use as much money as they can towards whatever dark ends they have, having nothing to do with looking after the interests of the American people. Government should be defending the population. Government should be should not be in the business of, well, all of the things that we see that are coming out in the news these days.
So I have one more video clip that I want to share with everybody that I think will provide some context to what happened on our inauguration night with the whole theory about everybody saying that Musk did a Roman salute. I'm going to dispel that whole rumor because that's a bunch of bullshit. I'm going to show you why here. I got video queued up, and we're gonna give the actual context. He was after he does this gesture, he does it twice in front of him and then behind him, and he says, "My heart goes out to you." Now, what they don't want you to hear is that that's what he meant when he did the gesture. My heart goes out to you. My heart goes out to you. More than likely, that's what he meant when he did that. And then he said, "My heart goes out to you" afterward. I'll let you guys be the judge, but let's watch this and then we'll discuss it and see what you guys think.
Victory feels like. Yeah! And this was no ordinary victory. This was a fork in the road of human civilization. Okay. This you know, there are elections that come and go. Some elections are, you know, important, some are not, but this one this one really mattered. And I just want to say thank you for making it happen. Thank you. My heart goes out to you. It is thanks to you that the future of civilization is assured. Thanks to you.
What do you think?
It could scarcely be more clear. My heart goes out to you.
Right. That's what I thought.
I thank you. I thank you who have made this sea change happen in this election, who have changed the structure of our culture with this election. That it's very clear that is his intention. And to say otherwise is just more of the same lying propaganda machine that has tried to stop the incoming administration from putting it into the money train. They've got a big gravy train going where they take American taxpayers' dollars and just steal them and use them however they see fit.
Noticed how after Trump won, now the narrative is switched to, oh, Elon's the Nazi, right? He's the racist. Like they've shifted from doing that, saying that Trump, and now it's all on Elon. You're like, I'm like, I mean, could your grift be any more obvious? Is what I'm thinking in my mind.
Yeah. Yeah, the grifters are being pushed out of government and they don't like it.
No, they don't. They're screaming and hollering at the top of their lungs. doing everything they can think of to try to stall their looming demise, which is it's unstoppable now. Those who have been criminally liable and have committed crimes in our positions of power in Congress, Senate, and all that, they're going to be held accountable. Mark my fucking words. Chuck Schumer, you're going to prison, motherfucker. Nancy Pelosi, you're going to fucking prison. All you motherfuckers that were complicit. I want fucking justice. I want to see these motherfuckers behind bars. And until
let's say,
not going to be any kind of healing in our country, period.
Let's just say that I believe that anyone who is guilty of crimes should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, particularly those who have sworn an oath to uphold the Constitution, or if in fact they're in those offices without having an oath on file. Maybe they didn't swear the oath. Well, if that's the case, then their whole reign as in their office is completely illegitimate, and they should be stripped of powers and prosecuted for perpetrating a fraud on the American people who believed that they had representation when in fact they did not. So either way, I feel that these people should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law and should face the consequences that are commensurate with their crimes.
Well said. Sorry, I got my mouth full. I'm eating right now.
I didn't mean to have my closing thought there correspond with the moment when you stuffed a big something in your mouth there.
It's all right. I was eating the crescent roll. Had I known you were going to finish your sentence, I would have waited. We got about a good hour show, and I think we covered a lot of ground. I think we covered some good bases. I think we should probably wrap it up though. Get the show keep it shorter than an hour and 30 minutes. But
sounds good.
We're going to be doing this every Wednesday, folks. We'll have your weekly news following Tuesday's probate trap show that we do with Luann and Robin on Tuesdays. So we're also going to have other stuff coming up in the near future during the week as well, other projects, other shows, the people that we're advocating with, helping to network with. So look forward to some amazing things coming forward in the near future, folks. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you all for joining us. We appreciate you. It is always a pleasure and always a lot of fun. And thank you, Stephen, for putting all this together and making it happen. And thank you to every single one of our listeners. Please like, share, and let people know about our show. And if you like what we're doing, support us any way that you can. And that's basically like and share. And so please feel free to do those things. We appreciate you, and we thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We appreciate you. Don't forget to like and share and subscribe, and help us share out these shows. It'll help with the algorithm and get us bumped up on the listings. So let's make this go viral, folks. Thank you, everybody. Good night. We'll see you we'll see you Tuesday for the probate trap, and next Wednesday for your weekly news. This is News4us.world and MediaNow.world.